3.4, applications of adding and or subtracting integers. So, well, I guess lots of addition and subtraction, just more than 2 terms at a time, which I think we saw some last time with addition. And then I can solve word problems that have negatives. Fair enough. Okay, so 25 minus something equals -7. It says use number sense to determine what number would make the equation true. Well, as it turns out, we can use fact family on this one. Now, do you have to use a fact family? Not necessarily, but I'll show the fact family, then we'll kind of look at how else to look at this stuff. So the fact family is when we would take the 25, and what we can do is, what I can do is keep this subtraction, and I'm going to take the -7 there, and I'm going to make it now the number that is being subtracted. So we'll make that minus -7 instead. And then that would equal the unknown. So I'll keep the blank there. And this would tell us what you can subtract from 25 in order to get -7. Now, again, this is just purely fact family kind of stuff, which we've seen. Maybe we remember it, maybe we don't. So maybe the other way may be better for us. But at this point, I would see minus a negative, so I would change that to a plus. And then we would be adding 25 and 7. Of course, they're both positive, which is going to make our answer a positive. And then we're going to add these together. So 5 plus 7 is 12, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 in the tens place value is 3. So it looks like you would have to subtract 32. You would have to subtract 32 from 25 to get -7. Now, another way to look at this without doing the fact family stuff is you'd first figure out if this number is positive or negative, which if you got 25 and you're subtracting something to make it negative, it doesn't have to be negative. What it does have to be, though, is bigger than 25. Because it's like you got 25 bucks, you're going to spend something, but in the end, you're going to have -7 bucks. So this number, all I can say for now is that it has to be bigger than 25. Well, I guess we know what it is. Well, how much bigger than 25 does it have to be? Well, since you're going to have 25 bucks, you're going to spend all the way down to 0, but $7 more means that you'd have to take 25 and add 7, just like we did right there, and you'd get the same number, 32. So subtracting and adding with many values is 2 main methods. So you can change all subtraction, any subtraction that you see, into addition, which then will allow you to combine values of the same sign, and then combine those two, which would be positives and negatives, into one final value. That requires some commutative property kind of stuff, but it depends, each can choose for themselves. And then the second one, operate 2 numbers at a time from left to right. This is the way that I encourage students to do until they can get a little bit more experience. Then I would say go with this method. But that being said, some students still prefer the first method, and that's okay. It is okay no matter which method you choose to use, just as long as you get the same answer. That's the main thing. So rewrite any subtraction in the problem as addition. 9 minus 8 minus 7. Well, there's only one subtraction right here, and I would use keep. So I would keep the 9 and 9. I would change the minus into a plus, and then that positive 8 right there, I would change into a -8. And then we still got the plus 7. That was already a plus right there, so we didn't have to do anything with keep, change on that. All right, so all we did right there is change the subtraction into addition. Keep, change. Then we say, what is the sum of the positive numbers? Well, the only 2 positives I have are 9 and 7. So we'll add these together. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So the sum of the positive numbers is 16. What is the sum of the negative numbers? Well, there's only one, and it's -8. So what is the final sum? So we're going to I'm going to rewrite this. The sum itself would be showing as 16. It is a sum. So we're going to add that to the negatives, -8. Now, with this that we have written there at the bottom, there's more positives than negatives, which means the answer itself must be positive. And then these 8, we're going to zero out 8 of the positives. The 8 negatives zero out 8 of the positives, which means we really end up with 16 minus 8, which is 8. So the final answer is positive 8. Now, I showed it like this to get that sum. The truth is, what you could have done, especially since the 16 was positive, we could have just come back here and read this as 16 minus 8 in order to get still a positive 8. Same thing. So I guess what I'm saying right there is that with this adding a negative thing, you can actually just change it to minus. So 16 minus 8. That's nice because we're taking away less than what we start with. And so, I mean, that just may be kind of convenient. But where do we get that? We got the 8. We got the subtraction to addition. We had the 16 and the 8. That's it. So if I'd used the second method, I would have done 9 plus negative 8, which is, you could just say 9 minus 8, or you could say, well, there's more positives than negatives. 9 minus 8 is 1. Yeah. Then you do 1 plus 7, which is still the same answer, 8. So on this one, I would just go from left to right. This is negative 3 minus 5, which I don't know. I mean, you don't have to do it like this, but keep change would show this is negative 3, but plus the negative 5, which when we combine those, you're just going to get something that's more negative than you started with. So we know it's negative, and then you do 3 plus 5, which is 8. So you end up with negative 8. Now, the rest of the problem shows minus negative 8. And you noticed what I just did right there with these two numbers, I ignored that third one. So it wasn't even, it was there. I know it's there. I know I need it. I just don't pay attention. I ignore it until I need it. Now I need it. And this would be negative 8. Again, minus negative is going to make that plus. These are opposites, which means you're going to end up with a 0 pair. So the answer is 0. Now, I like to go from left to right, and this is negative 6 minus 4. You can make it plus negative 4 if you'd like. Just going to make it more negative, and then we would have 6 plus 4 to see how negative it is. To get 10, so it's going to be negative 10 right there. Now, again, I wasn't doing anything with these other stuff. It's still there. We just weren't really worried about it. But now I'm worried about it because I got to go from left to right, and then I would do negative 10 plus 9. Now, these are opposites. There's more negatives than positives, so I would take the big number and subtract the small number to get 1. So now it's negative 1. Now minus negative 7 plus negative 8. And yes, this minus negative business, I'm going to change that to a plus sign. Negative 1 plus 7, which now they're opposites again. There's more positives than negatives, though, so this is going to be positive. Big number minus a small one. 7 minus 1 is 6. We now have 6 plus negative 8. This one's now plus, and they're opposites, but there's more negatives than positives. And then we do big number minus small number, 2. But again, it's negative 2 because of the negative. So word problems, again, I would say that the main thing with word problems is just reading them, because I have a tendency to just not read them and then I get them wrong. Yeah. So let's read. Your bank account was overdrawn. Your account was at negative $133. You did not realize the problem and spent another $62. Then the bank charged you a $18 fee for being overdrawn. How much is in your bank account after the additional spending and fee? Okay, so this one is kind of, I don't know. To me, this sets up so that we will do automatically 2 numbers at a time. Now, does that mean you have to? No, you do not. The choice is yours. Right here, we start with this $133 right there. So I'm going to start with owing the bank $133. Now, it says that we spent, and that'll be an important part of this. We're going to spend that $62. So we're going to spend this. Spend indicates subtraction, and we are subtracting 62. Now, I've kind of purposely put these two in as the same color, because minus the 62, if I were to have set this up a little bit better, means that I can just add this as a negative 62. Now, this will tell me, since it's spent, we already owed the bank money, and we just spent more money out of the bank. That means we owe the bank more money. I guess I'm just trying to explain kind of why adding 2 negatives makes it more negative. So there's my negative sign. then I can take the two numbers, 133 and 62, and just add them together. Now, this is just after the spending, how much we would then owe the bank. We still got the fee. We'll get to that. Remember, like I was saying before, I get to ignore all the stuff I don't want to until I want to get there. So in the ones place value, 3 plus 2 is 5. In the tens place value, 3 plus 6 is 9. Drop to 1. So we now owe the bank $195. But then it says, look, the bank says, well, you already were overdrawn, so here's another $18 fee. And the fee part indicates that it is going to be subtracted. But like I said before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this as addition of another negative. So, of course, we're adding another negative, meaning we would owe the bank more money. Owing the bank would indicate negative. Then we take the two negatives, 195 and 18. Since they're both negatives, we will add them together. 5 plus 8 in the ones place value is 13. 1 plus 9 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. 1 plus 1 in the tens place value is 2. So now we owe the bank $213. How much is in your bank account after? Oh, so we do want a label on this one. I'll put negative 213. That's it. All right, just for the sake of the video, you are in a submarine and are at a depth of 5 feet below sea level. Your depth changes to 24 feet below sea level. Did you go up or down? I'm going to do a diagram whether you need it or not. So sea level is usually up and down like this, an up and down number line, and so you'd have 0 there. Well, below sea level would be in the negatives. So -5 would be down right here. It's not scaled, but -24 has to be below it because it's more negative. And it's below sea level. That's what makes these negative right there. Well, clearly, if you're going to, because you're starting at -5, well, to get to -24, you're definitely going to have to go down. So yes, down. I'm going to read this one just to make sure I don't make the same mistake. Your pool was filled 15 inches below the top of the pool. You drained the pool 2 inches. Write a symbolic expression using subtraction that represents this problem. And then what is the water level relative to the top of the pool? Oh, okay. All right, so you got a pool. So this is going to be another vertical number line. Now the top of the pool, since everything is relative to the top of the pool, the top has to be 0 for this, which can be kind of confusing. But it says that you're going to start out at 15 inches below the top, which means from the top, I would have to go down 15. So this is going to be 15 inches below. Now, again, I don't really need to put the negative just because the below indicates that it is technically, mathematically, it would be negative. But then you drained. So draining means you're going to go down further 2 more inches. So from 15, I would have to go down again 2 inches. So this would be 16 inches below and then 17 inches below. I guess what I did right there, I just kind of answered the second part. 17 inches relative to the top. I'm going to put below, just so we know that it is below. It would be weird if it was above the top, because then it would overflow. But it says it wants a symbolic representation. Well, we're starting there at 15 inches below. It came filled somehow, 15 inches below. So that's where we're going to start. It says that we have to use subtraction, so there's my subtraction. Now, subtraction means we would go down on the number line, and it said we went down 2 inches, so I can just do 15 minus 2. That's it. That's what I get for not paying attention there. But yes, the 15 below would make that negative 15 minus 2, which now will make it 17 below, or again, mathematically, that'd be negative 17 inches. The temperature in some town one morning was 5 degrees Fahrenheit. By mid-afternoon, the temperature had dropped to 16 degrees below 0. What was the difference between the morning and the afternoon temperatures? So temperatures, and I think I've said this before, they used to be in those tubes that were filled with mercury. And when I was a kid, we used to break them and then try to stab each other, which is probably why we are the way we are. But in any case, it was fun and we enjoyed it, probably more than we should have. So I'm going to put 0 right there. And the reason why I said that is because those were vertical number lines. So that's why I still use today vertical number lines when I talk about temperature, most of the time. Well, it says that we're going to start the morning. It was 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not negative. It's not below 0. It's just 5 degrees. So I would have that up here, 5 degrees Fahrenheit. But then it says in the mid-afternoon, the temperature is going to drop to 16 degrees below 0. It's going to be way down here. So that's 16 degrees below 0, which is going to be negative, still in degrees Fahrenheit. So the difference, another way to say difference, especially on a number line like this, would be distance. Now that may make sense why it is going to be positive, but we can still look at this and see further why it is going to be positive still. So it's the distance between the morning, afternoon, so that means the morning is then where we start. And the afternoon temperature, which is then where we end. Okay, so difference though, so I would say mathematically I would start at 5. It's a difference, which we'll talk about distance here in a second, but that means it's minus. Well, we're minusing below 0, which is going to be the negative 16 right there. I do better 6. That's a little better. And then we say minus negative becomes plus. 5 plus 16 is 21 degrees. We'll put Fahrenheit to label it. Although degrees would be fine. Okay, now that's one way to look at it. But the difference between the temperatures, again, being a distance, should indicate that it's going to be positive. And you can see between these two, just to get from negative 16 to 0, you'd have to go up 16. Now that just gets you to 0 though, so you have to go up another 5 to get to 5. So that's why we end up adding those two. And then of course, 5 plus, that's a 5. 5 plus 16 is 21 degrees still. That's 3.4. Did some word problems, did some with lots of negatives and positives. Addition, subtraction, whatever. We did it.